Hey, I am so excited for everyone to be joining us today. I'm actually really excited about this conversation I'm going to be having with Darryl Thomas. But for those of you that are first joining us or checking us out, I'm Colleen Tatum, and this is Rising Through. We explore the struggle between success and overcoming struggle. What I've found is struggle is a requirement in our success rather than something to be avoided. It's actually even in the Bible that this is part of the way we become our true selves and find our true purpose. So Darryl Thomas is an expert on this topic. He has an amazing story, and I think that you guys are really going to enjoy the conversation that we have. So thank you, Darryl, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Awesome, awesome. So I don't even know where to start. Darryl is an author. He's written 5 books. He works in schools. He comes from a military background. But Darryl has a tagline on his social media, and I just found it so powerful. And I would love to hear kind of Darryl, like where, if you could unpack me that for a little bit or walk me through what the root of that is. And it says this: dismantling school to prison pipeline.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's interesting, when you talk about the struggle, when you talk about how that's a prerequisite for success, not everybody gets that. Not everybody understands that. And because they don't understand that, you find them staying stuck in those hardships, that adversity, and not ever really becoming who they were destined to be. And so for me, when I think about the school to prison pipeline, the reason why we hit that so hard is because I believe that's a system that's set up, is designed to actually keep people stuck, in that limited state of being, if you will. It's pushing the young people down down a path that's going to cause them to ultimately say, you know what, I'll settle. I'll settle whatever life is going to give me. I'll settle, instead of teaching them how to rise above. And so, school to prison pipeline, what is that? Typically, when you walk into a school, you're going to see similar setups that you would if you walk into a prison. You're going to see more like very structured environments. You're going to see punitive actions being taken place instead of restorative actions. You're going to see like very limited liberty with students, giving students very limited liberty. In other words, I'm teaching you what to think. I'm not teaching you necessarily how to think. That's a problem. I'm teaching you that if you break this rule, especially depending on how you look or what your demographic is, there's going to be harsher consequences. I know that's a topic, Colleen, that a lot of people don't like to have, but the truth of the matter is that the educational system, it does have some flaws in some areas where we need to improve. And so when we talk about that school to prison pipeline, that's exactly what I mean when I say dismantling that. Let's set our children up in a way that's going to help them step into the leader that they're supposed to be. Let's set up a system that's going to encourage them to tap into that potential that they have in them. If we keep going about school where we're teaching them what to think versus how to think, all we're doing is developing more workers, in the field, so to speak. We're not teaching them how to be people that produce jobs, people that produce businesses that are going to give more opportunities. So that's the school to prison pipeline in a nutshell. And the reason why I come against that is because, given my background, I was supposed to be, by statistics, I was supposed to be just another young man that didn't pan out, that didn't cut it. My mom and dad, they split when I was 4 years old. So dysfunctional, broken family is what I came from. Poverty is what I came from. I would spend 2 weeks over to my dad's and saw him lose his temper. He's abusing women. I would go to spend the 2 weeks with my mom at times, and I couldn't even find her because she was abusing drugs. And so that was the type of environment that I grew up in. And again, statistically, I'm supposed to be going into that school to prison pipeline. Well, okay, you showed up to school, but you're going to end up in prison before you know it. And my whole mission in life is to let people know, nope, you can defy the odds. Matter of fact, it's your responsibility to defy the odds.
Yeah.
You are a leader and you need to step up as such. And so, yeah, that's really where it comes from, the whole tagline, dismantling the school to prison pipeline.
I love that. I don't know. First of all, I'll address I'm frozen, which as long as you can hear me, I'm good. We're going to go with this. This means that we're going to talk about some really great stuff. We've already touched on some huge things right there. And so the enemy has maybe frozen my Zoom, so that we are gonna cover some stuff today that maybe is controversial, maybe is counter to what people usually think. I was one of those people. So my journey, you grow up and you go to school. That's what kids do, right? And my journey after having kids was realizing that maybe school isn't for all kids, right? So I've got an autistic kid and he was really struggling in school. There really isn't a place for him. And so we started exploring homeschooling. And at first, when I heard about homeschooling, you already think, oh my goodness, they're like, Christian crazy people. Or they're, people that are just not being parents, right? So the unschooling, I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, but people that are just basically being derelict, deadbeat parents and just letting their kids do whatever they want versus making them go to school, right? But as I started unpacking that journey and looking at school, and school was set up actually to create good workers, right? The school system was created to create obedient people that could work in a factory situation properly, right? It wasn't set up necessarily to foster a love of learning. And if we look back previous to the Industrial Revolution, homeschooling or learning what fired you up, learning to learn, like you mentioned, was actually the root of learning. And people would, apprentice with their parent or read a lot and go down little rabbit holes of things that interested them. And I think you're so right in so many ways. And, I don't have the experience that you do, but seeing it from even where I am, the schooling system in Canada is a little bit different than the US in a lot of ways, but still the similar setup in the way of, you go to school, we teach you all these things that, probably you're not going to need in your life, like, algebra and things like that. Great if you need it for your career, but maybe instead, if we were teaching people about how to build credit, how to open businesses, how to analyze, contracts, how to do all of these things that in this day and age, you really need to know how to do, but yet we're never taught how to do. And, I believe that is actually a system of its own, right? We keep people poor. We keep people not necessarily even financially poor, but poor in mindset, poor in lack of skills, and it keeps them in that system that creates billions of dollars of profit for certain corporations. So I totally respect what you're saying. And if someone is offended right now or freaking out by what we're saying, maybe just keep listening, because maybe there's a reason why you're listening today, right? Awesome. So I don't know where we lost each other, but the internet is not liking us in our conversation today. But if you are offended or you're freaking out a little bit right now as you're listening to this podcast, there's probably a reason why you're listening to this podcast today. So I want you to hold on. I want you to stay with us. And maybe you're like me. When I first heard of some of these concepts, I was like, what in the what? And then, you know what? God just kept saying, I think you need to listen to what I'm trying to teach you. And here I am. I'm unschooling one of my kids. I'm homeschooling another one traditionally. And then I have a third that wants to be in school. So we're open to all ideas here. And it's not just necessarily like a school, not school concept. It's kind of the concept, I think, of society in a greater level, right? There's a lot of systems that exist that, maybe they were set up for different reasons, but aren't really serving us anymore, right? Just because something is the way that we've done it doesn't mean necessarily that's the way we need to do it, is it, Darryl?
That's right. I agree.
When you say though, just, the school is set up that way, like what would be some examples maybe for someone that's just kind of hearing this for the first time? How do you see that happen in real life?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is that you can walk into a school, especially urban schools, where you'll see as you walk through the front door, there's a metal detector that's sitting there. That's one. And then you see a security officer or a police officer that's sitting right there to check
Mm,
them in. And that right off the bat causes someone to say, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, am I walking into a prison? The fact that you have to check, and I get where a lot of it comes from, in that man, we're trying to keep the schools safe. We're seeing a lot of school shootings, a lot of mass shootings that are taking place, a lot of school violence. And so it's important for us to have more of a presence, in terms of law enforcement on campus. It's important for us to take certain measures, safety measures, to keep the school and the students safe in the school. And so I get it to a certain degree, but I'm just saying, from a psychological standpoint, it does begin to make you wonder, make you think, well, are we in prison, or what's the real reason why we have police officers here? And then it doesn't help when you look at mainstream media and you see these different examples and incidents where excuse me, where law enforcement are abusing their authority, and it doesn't make sense. And so you couple that with the things that you're seeing in school, and so now you start to get the wrong impression about school, and that's where I believe you begin to lose a lot of people, especially our young people. And please, and for all my educators that are listening, this is no knock against you. We're just saying what we're noticing about the system itself. I
mhm.
believe there's so many pure-hearted people that are in the field of education that really do mean well. They really want to help our children. They really do want to teach them how to learn instead of telling them what to learn. They really do want to, foster, leaders and difference makers and world changers. They really want that. And so it's no knock against those people that have that desire and that are in the school system. We're just saying, for the school system itself, there's some glaring, just obvious things that are concerning, that are concerning. And
Yeah.
so for me, I think for me, Colleen, I really want to see that change. I want to see a change.
Yeah. And you know what? From what I know of educators that I speak to, so I speak to people from all over Canada and the USA through my business. And every time I sit down with a teacher, actually, they're frustrated with the system too, right?
Yeah.
They went into education, like you said, because they want to make a difference. They want to help foster leadership. They want to do a good job. And they're working within the system that they're provided, but there's a lot of barriers to that, right? So it's not on an individual basis that I think is the problem, right? They want to do a good job. Obviously, no one goes into any career thinking, hey, I think I'm just going to do a terrible job. I'm just going
Right.
to
Right.
float through and coast in this position. They go in there because they want to do it, right? They want to make a difference. And then sometimes you get in there and you realize that reality is a little bit different than what you thought it was. And certainly right now, like you're saying, with the safety versus education, there's a lot of dynamics, and people are trying to do the best that they can with what they've been provided. But it takes a lot to change that system, and it takes a lot to change some of the reasons behind the reason that are creating those issues in school, that are
Yeah.
creating what we're seeing, right? It doesn't just start with the event. It probably starts, 10, 15 events before that. There's lots of opportunity to intervene, to support in different ways. But unfortunately, sometimes we don't have the tools to do that, or we're not taught how to do that in today's environment. So when
Yeah.
you start, like how did you start on this path to being so passionate about dismantling the school to prison pipeline?
I think about I think about this, and this is going back to the metal detectors and the law enforcement being there. I heard this quote. It said something along the lines that the way you see someone is the way you treat them, and the way you treat them is who they become. And so that, for me, that's super important, because if I'm treating you as if you're some type of criminal, then you're going to start to see yourself as that in a certain degree. To a certain degree, you're going to start to see yourself as that. And as you do, eventually you start to act that way. And now all you're doing is proving those people that viewed you in the wrong way right. And so for me, I realized when we start to treat our young leaders, the ones that are supposed to be taking the baton and running with it, once we pass it to them, when we start to treat them in such a way, we're really doing a disservice, not just to them, but we're doing a disservice to ourselves and to this world, because we're not giving them the tools, the confidence, and the competence that they need to be able to lead this world the right way. And so I'm super committed to what we do. And I have to take you back, Colleen, because when I was growing up, I alluded to some of the things that I had went through as a kid: the broken home, the impoverished, just upbringing. And for me, I remember walking into a classroom. It was my favorite teacher, Coach Robbins. I'm in 7th grade. And I wanted to talk to Coach Robbins today because I had a lot on my chest. The life is just really hitting, and it's heavy. I just need somebody to talk to. I knew I could trust him. And so I go to Coach Robbins, and lo and behold, he's not even there. I'm like, man, out of all the days, why today? Like, I really need you. And anyhow, I noticed there's a substitute teacher there. And the substitute teacher, she gets up from the desk. I'm sitting in the back of the classroom at my desk, and I'm talking to my good friend at the moment. And I'm just kind of just shooting the breeze with him, but I'm watching her. I see her get up from the teacher's desk. I see her walk over to the chalkboard, and she writes out 4 words: "I am a winner." And when I looked at it, I was like, man, this is corny. What is this? In my mind, I'm like, I hope she don't make us write this. And sure enough, she made us write it. She said, "Hey, class, good morning." We said, "Hey, good morning, miss." She said, "Take out a fresh sheet of paper, write today's date, write your name. In the top right-hand corner, I want you to write these 4 words that are on the board: I am a winner." And, I reluctantly wrote it. And as I finished writing it, she began to break down what it meant. She said, "I am a winner" simply means no matter what you go through in life, no matter how crazy it is, no matter how unfair or undeserving it may be, she said, you do win as long as you don't quit. Quitters never win, and winners never quit. I went from slouching back in my chair trying to be cool to now I'm sitting at the very edge of my seat. I'm eating up every single word that she's saying. Why? Because in that moment, my life was going just like that when I walked into that classroom. But when I understood what she was saying, I knew, boom, the entire trajectory of my life began to change, because she gave me an answer to a test that I was facing that I had no answer to. And so my thing about education, when I had that type of experience, I'm like, man, this lady really changed my life. The very next day I went into the classroom, instead of looking for Coach Robbins, I'm now looking for Miss Lady, right? The substitute teacher. I don't remember her name, right? But I'm looking for this substitute teacher, if nothing else, to say thank you. Like, I've been coming to school all this time, and yes, while I enjoy certain teachers and I enjoy certain aspects of school, it's like no one ever did that right there for me. And that began to change my mindset. So when I didn't see her, I was a little upset, but I took out a fresh sheet of paper without being asked. I wrote today's date. I wrote my name. In the top right-hand corner, I wrote those 4 words to the test: I am a winner. And I did it every single day for the rest of my 7th grade year.
Wow.
I had to do it in all the other classes. In my 8th grade year, I did it. And then when I got to my 9th grade year, I still kept doing it. This is the thing, though, Colleen, I really wanted to say this part. Because I did it so much, it went from something that was in my head to something that's in my heart now. Now I began to identify as such that I really am a winner. And as crazy as things are back at home, I just got to figure out a reason to keep moving, to not quit. And so that's what we did. That's what we did. And so that's the thing that really drove me to be as passionate as I am about dismantling the school to prison pipeline. I realized, man, that we can get educators in there to impact our kids in that kind of manner. Oh, man, we can really have a world that looks completely different than what it is right now. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are in there. They're trying to teach to test, to standardize tests. Oh, we got to get you to pass this. We want you to show up so we can make sure we keep getting funding. And when we get that funding, we're not really putting it in all the necessary places. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, again, it's a system that's leading us right into a prison, and not necessarily just the literal sense of prison, but imprisonment in terms of our mind and our potential.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, Darryl, there's so many good nuggets in there. You're so right. So many people are living a life of quiet desperation, aren't they? They
Mm-hmm.
might not be in prison, but they're in prison.
Yeah.
They're worried about how their bills are going to get paid. They go to work every single day, hating every minute of it, waiting for the weekend. The weekend is spent trying to catch up with all the things that you couldn't get done during the week because you were working. You're not connected with your kids. You're not having a good relationship with your spouse. You're not, being able to spend time with yourself, with your own mindset and growth. There's just nothing left at the
Yeah.
end of all those tasks. And I think that's something that more and more people are struggling with as we realize, the cost of living keeps going up and up, and wages aren't keeping pace. And more people are questioning, what is it that we're trying to accomplish with all of this, right? But
Right.
you that lady, that teacher, wouldn't it be cool if we could find her someday? That would be amazing. But
I
there's
wish I
this,
could.
wouldn't it be cool? There's two kind of like nuggets in there. One is the idea that, most substitute teachers are just going to school that day just to keep kids alive and get out of there because they're
Right.
not trying, they're not assuming that they can even make an impact. They're like assuming I'm going to go to school, everyone's going to be in chaos. I'm just there to keep everyone alive for the day, and that's good enough, right? And certainly sometimes that is good enough depending on the class that you get. But she
True.
said, no, I'm going to do whatever I'm doing to the highest level. I'm not
Yes.
going to accept mediocrity. I'm going to be excellent in everything I do, in every opportunity that I have to do that. And
Yep.
because she did that, she had such a great impact on you. And maybe she had done it, I assume, over and over with classes over and over and over. And maybe no one ever had connected to that message until that day where you and her were put together in that classroom together. And look, it changed the trajectory of your life. So it's like the lesson of being great in whatever you're doing, no matter the situation that you're in. Like if you're a cleaner, if you're sweeping the floor, like be the best floor sweeper that you
Right.
could be. Look for opportunity to provide service to others. Look for opportunity to be great in that position, and opportunity is going to meet where you get to impact someone's life in probably ways that you never ever dreamed would happen. And then
Yeah.
secondly, it's like you're going to school day after day, you're going through the motions, and at the same time nothing's ever kind of providing for you what you need, but you keep going. And it's that idea that everyone has a winner inside of them. Everyone's sent here. Everyone, I believe, has a purpose, a gift inside of them. But you have to have some sort of moment, you have to have some sort of environment to actually release that, right? The idea, like you were saying earlier, that so many people just settle, right? And
Yep.
it's not because they don't have a gift or a purpose and they don't have a great life waiting for them. It's because they've perhaps just accepted that this is just the way life is supposed to be, right? We grow up, we pay bills, we die. But there's surely got to be more than that, right?
Yep.
So when you were growing up and you were in this environment where everyone just thought Darryl's a write-off, besides this teacher, like was it this teacher, but also there's got to be other things that kept you going? Did you always know inside of you that you were meant for more? Or how did you become Darryl Thomas, the inspiration that you are right now? There's more to it than that, right?
I mean, I think, and it goes back to when you think about the concept of your podcast, you know, your show, rising through. For me, it's the adversity. Like at one point in my life, it began to click. Like, hold on, I'm going through a lot of negative stuff. I am, and it's unfair, and I didn't ask for it. But why am I really going through it?
Mm-hmm.
And I began to question those things. And I think for me, along the way, I've learned that those things were not happening to me; they were happening for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I learned. It took some time before I understood that, but as I began to understand that, life took on a whole new meaning when I had began to encounter this opposition or these obstacles and these challenges. Like it took on a whole new meaning. And so I think one of the things that helped me was early on, I was fortunate enough to come across a couple of books where I read about Dr. King, and I read about Frederick Douglass, and I read about Jackie Robinson. And as a first grader reading those things, I'm like, man, whoa. I said, I can do that. Like I see myself doing it. So like seeds are being planted even then, that man, like you, and I felt in my heart that you are destined to lead and to impact people in a great way, similar to these guys that you're reading about. And so I always, when I had came across that, like that's the kind of the mindset that I had going through life. But the part I wanted to really share with you, Colleen, if it's okay, is that once I had got that from my head to my heart, I am a winner. Like I say, the situation didn't change. Matter of fact, they ended up getting worse and to some degree. My ninth grade year, it was second semester, February the 16th is when it was, 1997. My dad had just gotten his paycheck from work, gave it to his girlfriend, and he said, "Hey, woman, go get some food in the house. These kids, they need something to eat." And she kind of snatched a check, rolled her eyes on her neck, you know, like she had a stanky attitude, right? Stanky attitude. Anyhow, my dad took me and my brother, and we left the apartment that morning. We came back, and one of the first things I'm looking for is food. I'm trying to see, one, did she do what my daddy told her to do? Then two, I'm looking for the new snacks. Like I'm hungry, right? And so anyhow, I go in and there's no food in the fridge. There's no new snacks in the cabinets. And I look to my dad, and just like clockwork, 3, 2, 1, boom. "Woman, didn't I tell you to get some food in the house, you?" And he is going in on her. She being the crazy woman that she is, she's like, I, I know he didn't, right? And she had that kind of attitude, and she went from 0 to 100 just like that. And so now they're in a heated argument going back and forth. And my daddy, mid argument, he says, "DJ, Darryl Jr., and Quincy, my little brother, y'all go downstairs and wait for me." He said, "We're getting ready to leave." And I said, "Okay. Are we leaving for good, Daddy?" It's like, "Yeah, boy, like go, take your brother." And so anyhow, we go downstairs. As we're going downstairs, I can hear the commotion pick back up. But this time it's different. Things are being thrown across the room, hitting the walls, hitting the floors. Eventually, bodies are being shoved into the wall. And where we stood when we got downstairs by the car, we could see the front door of the apartment, and we can see the front window. And every time a body would hit the wall, you can see the window rattle. Boom, it's rattling. Boom, rattling. And I looked to my little brother and I said, "Q, you okay, man?" And I can see that he was terrified. And I just tucked him in a little bit closer to me. I said, "Man, just stay right here." So it's going to be all right, Q. It's going to be over, man. And sure enough, all the commotion eventually stops. The front door of the apartment, it swings open. And when it swings open, you hear, boom, and then it closes, swings open again, boom, closes. Does it a few more times. I'm starting to freak out, but I can't let Quincy see it. And then somebody comes out to the front porch. "That'll teach you to mess with me, you." And they're broadcasting to the whole world. "You bleepity, bleepity, bleep." Just fussing and cussing. And I threw down my backpack. I ran up the stairs, looked behind the door, and there was the biggest test of my life. I saw the dude that I'm named after, Darryl Sr., and he's lying down. Left arm is up, right arm is down, and he's in his own puddle of blood, face down. And I can't explain to you clear enough how I felt in that moment. Like every negative emotion you can probably imagine, I was feeling it. I was angry, confused, scared, abandoned, felt abandoned, hopeless, like whatever you can think of, I'm probably thinking in this moment and feeling. And it was so overwhelming. I was crying, like tears just flowing down my cheeks. I dropped to my knees. I rolled my daddy's body over. Now his head is laying on my lap. And I'm saying, Daddy, Daddy, say something, please. Say something. And his response, here, here, here. In a matter of moments, I saw the pupils of his eyes, they dilated, and the breathing stops. I'm 14 years old and I'm a freshman in high school. My brother's 10 years old when my dad passed away. And so it was moments like that that really shook me, but it also helped me to realize um how strong of a person I really was, and more so how great of a destiny I'm supposed to have. Like I really that's kind of how I saw it. But in that moment, Colleen, just being 100% just transparent in that moment, all I wanted to do was retaliate. I didn't care about I am a winner. I didn't care about, you know what, you're supposed to go and make great impact. I wasn't thinking nothing like that. I said, she just took Superman from me. Like this dude is not just my provider, he's my protector. He started to become my best friend, all this kind of stuff. And now he's gone. And so the way we're brought up is, okay, you do something to me, I'm going to do something back to you, but I'm going to do it worse than you did. And so I said, okay, you took his life, I'm going to take yours. And before I got up off my knees, before I could move my daddy's body off of my lap, I looked over my shoulder and I had to take a double take because I couldn't believe what I saw. I saw Quincy standing right there. And to me, that was like a divine intervention, like a divine moment, because it helped me to realize that this ain't just about you, man. The move you're about to make, it's a selfish move and you're doing it. And it can be justified because of the way you're feeling and what just happened to you. But think about the consequences. If you go and do what you want to do, where does that put Quincy? I just told him moments ago when we are downstairs that, hey, I got you, bro. Stay right here. It's going to be okay. And so if I did what I did or wanted to do, he could have very well lost the two most important people in his life in the same night. That would be unfair. And so I made a decision that was beneficial for me and Quincy. And long story short, I really am grateful that I did. So when we fast forward to what I do today, I truly believe the adversities, the hardships, the tests that I went through, that's what has allowed me to be as effective as I am in what we do in terms of impacting and building up leaders. We're able to do that because of what we went through. And again, it didn't happen to me, it happened for me, that adversity.
I mean, that was a powerful share, and I want to honor you for sharing that with our audience. You know, I can't imagine exactly, human nature is that you want to retaliate, right? Especially as a 14-year-old boy, right? That the nature is that, you want to protect yourself and you want to, anger is a natural reaction. And to go through that and have that moment with yourself so clearly of where you're making a choice of how you're going to react to the situation, right? We can't control what happens to us, but we do have control over how we react and how we respond, right? And what a powerful example. There's really no other examples that would be more clear of that choice that we have of saying, how do I want to react to this situation? And in that situation, you chose love, really, right? You chose to love someone greater than your pain. You chose to be there for your brother instead of expressing your pain through anger and retaliation. And I think that's a beautiful testimony to the love that you have for your brother. and the power within yourself, because it takes more power to be in love, to react in compassion, than it takes to react in anger. And taking that struggle and turning it into a mission to help hundreds or thousands of people, I believe you will help thousands of people, if not more, um, through your advocacy and through the work that you're doing with your school work and with the books that you're writing. I believe that exactly that you will be a powerful force for change in this world, and I'm so grateful for you for sharing that with us. Um, Lots of people have stories, right? Lots of people have had adversities, but what is unique is people seeing so clearly the choice before them to turn it into a positive. And this world that we're in, our human experience, I believe, is really about that, is learning to take those struggles, to take those times of doubt or worry, and to harness it for goodness, right?
Yeah.
The greatness that's within ourselves is there, and it's brought out most often by those struggles. It's when we're brought to our knees that we're able to actually rise in a whole new way, that we're able to emerge and quite often find our true selves, find our true purpose, and to become something so much greater than ourselves through that struggle. Um,
Yes.
so as you turn that into a lifelong advocacy and work, you've written 5 books.
Mhm.
Your newest book is coming out on September 11th. Um,
Yes,
it's called Take the L. Is that correct? Is
that's
L
correct.
standing for leadership? What is that standing for, Darryl?
Yeah, so we actually break it down in more detail in the book, obviously. But no, take the L. Typically, when we hear take the L, we're thinking of just take the loss. That's take it on the chin. It's okay.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah.
bounce back. But truth of the matter, I truly believe that there is no winning without taking the L. Like so we have to have love, leadership, and legacy is what the L stands for. And so for me, again, my favorite L word is leadership. But I truly believe that in order for me to be an effective leader, I have to first love myself. I have to have love. And once I can love well, I can lead well. And if I can lead well, then I can leave a legacy that's worth saluting. So love, leadership, and legacy is the core values. But that's what the L is. When we talk about the book, take the L. Take love into consideration, take leadership into consideration, take legacy into consideration. And that's how you ultimately win when it comes to life.
Yeah, it's so true. Take the L, take the loss, which really is actually choosing to take a win, I think, in the bigger picture, right? Being able to, like you said, face adversity and become legendary. And that's a choice that all of us have. No matter what your story is, no matter what your background is, there are definitely things that you can choose to use for yourself, to use for service to others, versus going into victim mentality. The only person that really suffers when you're in that mentality is yourself, right? You're never going to be happy unless you really choose to be happy, and you choose to lean into love, and you choose to lean into that higher self, and to, first and foremost, heal yourself, make sure that you're being able to feel happy and fulfilled, and like you're on a good path, and then using that to serve others, I think, is the ultimate reason why we're on earth. And so if someone wants to connect with your work, I believe you go into schools and speak, or you speak on other stages. Like, if someone's kind of thinking, wow, Darryl's amazing, I would love to hear more about his work, where should they go? Where can they find the book? What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, the best way would be to go to the website, which is Darryl, DARRYL W THOMAS.com. So DarrylWThomas.com. You can go there. There's a way that you can actually request, to get more information. If you want to, you can check out the services we provide. But you can see also some of the testimonials and the things that we're doing. I truly believe that we're doing amazing work, and that we're helping build leaders. And then another way to reach out would be through social media. You can reach me on all platforms, the number one, and again, Darryl W. Thomas.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the show notes for everyone so that they can link to it. So the book is coming out on September 11th. What's next for you, Darryl?
We also have another book. I work again with students, high school and college, primarily student athletes and students, and so a group of high school students that we took through our leadership development program. Uh, I've given them the opportunity to be able to publish their stories, their personal tests that they had to go through and the lessons that they gained from it. And so they're going to be published authors come next month as well. And so I think I'm more excited about that
Yes.
than we
Yeah.
are for Take the L. But the name of the book is Today We Win. And again, it's a collective where each of them are going to write. They have written their own chapter, sharing their own stories and lessons. So yeah, be on the lookout for that as well. So that's probably the next thing. And other than that, we're looking to impact as many young leaders as we can, high school, college students, and student athletes. So if there's anyone out there who's looking, to have theirs impacted, I mean, I think that's pretty much the two next moves for us. Is we want to continue this speaking tour, going across the country and the globe, speaking to these young people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Darryl. It was an honor, and I do believe that your work is so important, and I know that you're going to have a huge impact on this world. This is only just the beginning for you. That's what my heart is telling me. So if you're listening right now and you connected with Darryl's story, I'm going to put in the show notes where you can find him. But even if you just share this podcast with someone that you care about, if you share it on your social media, that's going to help Darryl further his mission and help him help more people. So even if you can just even share this podcast, that's going to go a big, big way to being able to help the mission with Darryl. But of course, if you can, go and pre-order his book, go and connect with his content. And we're going to keep watching you, Darryl, and see where you go. I can see seeing you on big, big stages in the years to come. And I'll be able to say, oh, he was on my podcast. So that's always going to be fun. But yeah, appreciate you so much for coming on, and blessings to you.